MBA students. In this video, I just was wanting to talk about why the question that maybe uh, often comes to your mind, why economics in the MBA program. I mean, quite a few students have asked me about this. It's why should we as managers or potential managers care about economics or learn economics in the MBA curriculum? A couple of points here. One, um, if you've read the article by Peter Navarro, which should be posted in this module, uh, you'd have noted that just about 1/3 of the top 20 MBA programs in the nation actually teach macroeconomics as part of their core MBA curriculum, or as a required course in the core MBA curriculum. Now, there's two ways to go about learning economics in the MBA curriculum. The common and more traditional approach has been to have a more microeconomic focus, and which means just again, I guess learning more about market structures and how they're important maybe to strategic decisions, sort of tying it in there, maybe learning about different kinds of incentive schemes and how they affect employee productivity, those kinds of issues. And so those are all sort of relevant and important, but in a more in a somewhat sort of narrower context, right? Within the context of maybe your organization, maybe a little bit of influence on perhaps strategic thinking within a certain market. But as you sort of move up the ranks and of management, and thinking about global sort of strategy decisions, at least in my opinion, what is more important, or is some facility with macroeconomics, or as Peter Navarro calls it, macroeconomics or literacy. And so the question is, okay, that's all sort of fine and good. Have any of the students who graduated from our MBA class, have they sort of found this relevant, this approach that I have? And in fact, just some time back, I ran into one of my former students from the MBA program, and she works at Old National Bank, and she sort of came up to me and said how she found my class interesting and is actually quite sort of relevant. She spends a lot of her time now reading Fed announcements and making sense of that for Old National Bank. So that's sort of one example of how this has become relevant in her sort of workplace. And another student that I had talked about how this investment project that we do in this class, and I'll discuss more about that in a different segment, how it opened up his eyes to investment decisions sort of globally and not just in this region. He was, and again, like I'll discuss in more detail, this is a property investment project that's based on your own personal financial situation or your team's financial situation, where by the end of the course you should be able to, if you want, actually go ahead and execute that investment decision. So that's relevant, again, not just in your in your job situation, but here it's a direct relevance to your own personal financial wealth or personal financial situation. But coming back to macroeconomics and literacy, in that same article by Peter Navarro, it gives a very good concrete example about how this company CEMEX, on its management team, there were individuals who had facility with macroeconomics, who were literate in macroeconomics. They were able to see how this whole Asian financial crisis would play out, and based on that knowledge, they were able to make sort of key strategic investment decisions in production capacity in different countries. For example, they were able to pick up, I guess, production plants in Philippines and other countries at bargain prices. Again, because they had on their management team individuals who were literate in macroeconomics, and that's an important skill for you to have, because a lot of management teams would rarely have someone who's literate in macroeconomics, and so it'd be good for you then to have this training, and for you to add value then to your management team. Another sort of example, which is also posted in this module, is about companies such as BMW and Mercedes making decisions to set up production plants in the U.S. Again, that's based on on exchange rate movements, or study of Euro US dollar exchange rate movements. So which again you learn in this class. Another example that would have been relevant again to you personally, and maybe if you are in the finance, construction industry, or your own companies are dependent on the success of the housing or construction industry. If you're, this whole sort of financial crisis was brought on by housing market bubble, right? So if you were just paying attention to one graph, you would have been able to foresee and actually see this bubble developing in the housing market, and then you would have been able to make appropriate decisions to your context. So again, I have this chart available in this module, but if you look at that chart, you see, and I have it right here on my computer, so I'm going to just turn around and take a quick look here. You may not be able to see this, but if I look at the ratio of median house price to median household income for the U.S., and that sort of average has been around 2 from 1980 to 2001, right? So it's been, sorry, not 2, at 3. The ratio has been at 3 from 1980 to 2001, right? So ratio of median house price to median household income. So your home price is about 3 times the household income, right? So that's been the ratio for 20 odd years. And then in 2001, this ratio starts climbing above 3. And it breaks the 4 mark in about 2004. And that should have been sort of alarming right there. So in 2004, so a ratio that's been stable for 20 years at 3 now goes over 4, right, within a span of 4 years. Now, if that doesn't scream at you that something is wrong in the housing market, I mean, I don't think any other kind of highly sophisticated statistical techniques would be able to convince you. Right? Just a simple graph should have rang all kinds of alarm bells about there being something wrong in this housing market. So it's a clear sort of indication of at least some sort of bubble in the sense it's not driven by sort of fundamentals of as you might call it of demand and supply, where some of it is driven by speculative reasons. Some of it, as we now find out, was driven by other kinds of lackadaisical processes on approving mortgages, subprime, and so on and so forth. But here's an example where if you had, if you were macroeconomically literate, you would have not try to buy a home in 2004, at the height of the housing bubble, and so something that you would have known and try to stay away from. Secondly, if you were in the construction industry and you'd see this sudden surge in this ratio in 4 years, you would know that something is amiss here, and you would have maybe able to plan for the upcoming sort of burst in the bubble. And there were economists that did forecast this bubble, and that this bubble couldn't last for too long. Economists such as Nouriel Roubini did talk about this bubble in the housing market and how this is it's not sustainable. This kind of surge in home prices when you compare that to the rise in household income. But of course, people don't want to pay attention to, or people to naysayers, right? I mean, he's just another party pooper. Everyone's enjoying this run in home prices. All the shows on TV flip this out, flip that house. So suddenly everyone was turning into these housing investors, real estate, trying to all be real estate magnates. I can do this. I can go and flip this house and make tons of money in short periods of time. So the lesson is, of course, pay attention to the naysayers. Pay attention to those who sort of carefully look at data, such as economists, and try to stay away from the pop economists. So that's sort of my take on why macroeconomic literacy is important for you as maybe managers now, or as you sort of rise up the management ladder. In the next video, we'll discuss more about the investment project that I briefly talked about in this segment.